Our Grammar for Writing study happened about 5 or 6 years ago now, and since then we've been continuing to develop it, but the original study remains the largest one, and we worked with 32 schools exploring whether if you embed grammar points that are relevant to the writing that you're teaching, will it help students to improve their writing? So an example of that is you might be teaching narrative fiction, and you could look at the way characterisation can be developed through effective use of noun phrases. And what the study showed was a significant impact on writing attainment. The children in the research group improved by 20% over the year, compared with 11% in the comparison group. And since then, we've been continuing to work on this and develop it. That research that we did on Grammar for Writing, we've worked together with Pearson to develop skills for writing resources for Key Stage 3, where the whole approach has been embedded into these materials. One of the things about the Grammar for Writing approach is that all the way through we use authentic texts as the model for showing children how they can make writing choices. And one of the things that many teachers said to us was that our approach was just as helpful for reading as for writing. So we decided to test that out at Key Stage 4 by looking at developing some research which explored, can you help students to make linguistic responses to texts at the same time as supporting them in their writing? So, for example, one thing we did was look at Wilfred Owen's poem Dulce et Decorum Est, and we were looking at the way the last stanza is all one sentence with 2 conditional if clauses followed by the main clause, and we discussed the effect of that and why Owen might have chosen to do it that way round. Teachers found that really helpful. So Pearson asked us to look at, could we explore this a little bit more at Key Stage 4? And we've just completed another study where we combined the teaching of linguistic analysis for reading with teaching writing about texts. So here we focus very much on, can we help students to have the right language and the right understanding to comment on the linguistic features of the text they're studying, and at the same time, can we support them in writing about those texts effectively? And the results have shown, again, a really positive effect, particularly for the ability to analyse the text linguistically. And interestingly, a breakdown of the marks show that it particularly helps the language aspect of these questions. It seems to support students in being able to respond much more meaningfully using appropriate meta-language to answering the questions about how the writer uses language. So we've been very pleased with the way that that has worked. More recently, we've been working with Pearson on resources and support for the Edexcel GCSE specification. So the unit of work that was used in the research looking at reading and writing and how you can combine them has been adapted and is now available free for teachers to trial and test out. And we're also analysing some of last year's GCSE writing answers to look at how students responded and to identify strengths and weaknesses in their writing. This will allow us to report back to teachers on what they might need to focus on more effectively in the future. Another thing that we've been doing is looking at preparing resources, teaching resources and materials that are specifically geared towards that Edexcel specification. And in these resources and materials, we're combining that approach of always looking at a written text, a published text, and helping students develop their linguistic analytical skills, but then linking that to their own writing and how they might draw on those particular linguistic analyses to inform how they do their own writing. Another thing we're doing is developing professional learning courses for teachers that allow them to explore and understand this approach. These professional learning courses focus particularly on developing confidence with the grammatical language, but particularly also developing confidence in applying that in the context of published texts and students' own writing.